Oh, hi. I'm Owlbear Rogue. Welcome to the cave. I had too many ideas for tonight's video, and some of you were kind enough to help me decide which one to do. If you want the chance to chime in on the kinds of videos I make, just subscribble and hit the notification bell so you'll see when I post polls. At your request, let's talk about Lady Blackwood's Society of Insufferable Meddlers. A series of high-level, one-shot mysteries set in a mid-magic Victorian London. I have about a dozen people that play in long campaigns with me. We're talking several years each campaign. But then I have another dozen or so friends who love to play but are just too busy for that kind of commitment. One of the difficult things about being in that position is they're pretty much doomed to forever play low-level characters. They never get the chance to level up over time. For these friends, I created Lady Blackwood's Society of Insufferable Meddlers. What is that? Well, mechanically, it's a series of level 12 one-shots. I can run these one-shots in any order I like, and I can add new ones on at any time. The adventures star the same 4 pre-generated characters, and we'll talk a lot more about them. The setting is a dark, foggy, mysterious Victorian London with a medium amount of magic. Magic exists in this world, but the number of people who have both the natural ability and the resources of money and time to pursue the arcane is limited. Victorian London is a dynamic, intriguing, atmospheric place to have an adventure, especially a mystery. It is also undeniably a place full of trope nopes. A highly romanticized time and place through one lens, a place of poverty and colonial oppression through another. I'll just say, as I always do with settings and genres that require extra thought and delicate treatment, do research about the harmful tropes, make sure everyone at your table is comfortable, and generally, be thoughtful and cool about it, yeah? As I mentioned, each one-shot revolves around the same 4 PCs that notably I created. There are 2 advantages to this. First, I designed this experience for my friends who are busy. They want to be able to sit down, get handed a character sheet, and start rolling dice. I've been lucky enough that even though they didn't create these characters themselves, they have fallen madly in love with them and always look forward for the chance to pick them up again. The second advantage is I know the ins and outs of these characters. I can design each one-shot with the PCs in mind. While I hope and frequently am surprised and delighted by how my players use these characters to tackle problems and situations, I know they have options for dealing with the challenges I put in front of them. I can design gameplay with built-in opportunities for each player to have their moment in the spotlight. One downside that I make clear to my players is that these characters will never level up. Everyone has agreed it's a worthwhile sacrifice so that I can run the one-shots in any order for any group. It's just a utility thing for me. Now, who is this Lady Blackwood, and how did she come to have such a meddlesome society? And by the way, side note, if you decide to take this concept and bring it to your table, I encourage you to give Lady Blackwood their own name, the society its own name. Maybe yours will be Lord Huntington's Drinking and Debating Society or something like that. Have fun making it your own. You're a good DM. I trust you. Lady Blackwood is an eccentric elderly woman in my world. When her husband died, she found herself in poor health, bored, and extremely wealthy. Influenced by tales of the famous detective Sherlock Holmes, she decided to use her money and time to create a secret society of crime fighters. She handpicked the members of the society for their particular set of skills. She has provided them with extensive training in the science of modern criminal investigation, an elegant secret meeting place underneath a lake on her estate, a very resourceful butler named Mr. Stibbons to assist them, and limitless access to money and equipment. Another side note here, an enormous DM lesson I learned from watching the master Brennan Lee Mulligan run Calamity which is a masterpiece in my opinion, the greatest thing ever done with D&D. What I learned is that if your stories are strong enough, your players can have incredible resources and abilities. They can make the cleverest choices and still be scrambling one step behind their nemesis. That sounds like another video for the future, though. Anyhow, this carefully selected, carefully trained group has become a tight-knit team of friends and colleagues. They've also become friends with Lady Blackwood's inspiration, Mr. Holmes himself. Sometimes he pops up because he was pulling on a different thread of the same case. Or he might be called away to the Baskervilles and ask the Society of Meddlers to cover a case in his absence. Let's meet these meddlers. I refer to these 4 PCs by their role in the party. I let each player who gets to embody them decide what their name is. One time I accidentally handed out character sheets that I had used once before. They didn't have character names written on them, but they had the player names written on them from a previous group. This group thought it would be funny to use the other group's player names as their character names, which was cute for them because they didn't know those other players. But I did. They're my friends. So then I had one group of friends going by the names of my other friends, playing characters that those other friends had also played. It was very confusing and surreal for me, but they got a kick out of it, and well, I aim to please. Anyhow, the characters are the scholarly savant, the retired detective, the spiritualist, and the incendiary specialist. I encourage each group that comes together, once we're at the table, to create their own very basic backstory and connections within the group between these characters, if that's something they have time for and are interested in. The scholarly savant is a distinguished woman in her early 60s. She's a good friend of Lady Blackwood's, and like her, she moves in the highest levels of society. Prince Albert himself would allow her an audience if she requested it. She's a well-read genius with a photographic memory. She's charming, powerful, well-connected, and in addition to using those qualities in the service of her work for the Society of Meddlers, she uses it to expand her large collection of rare magical books and artifacts. Mechanically, she's a wizard. Her intelligence is maxed out, her charisma is high. She's not so big on the strength or constitution. She has the School of Enchantment abilities of hypnotic gaze and instinctive charm, and she has the keen mind feat. Her list of spells is carefully curated around the acquisition of information and objects. One of my players who frequently plays her has described her as an Antiques Roadshow wizard. And that is exactly what I was going for. She has spells like detect magic, identify, locate object, tongues, dispel magic, suggestion, legend lore, and Drawmig's instant summons. If you've never heard of the spell, by the way, Drawmig's instant summons, it's pretty neat. It's a 6th level spell that allows a character to touch an item under 10 pounds, leaving an invisible mark on the item and connecting it to a sapphire the player character carries with them. At any time thereafter, the sapphire can be crushed and the item will appear in their hand. In the official spell, there's an addendum to this that makes it not work if the item is being held or carried. I think that's dumb, and I don't include that. I think if a player is ingenious enough to create a scenario in which they can touch an important object, cast an obvious spell on it with visual, somatic, and material components, they get to have it. She also has some protective spells, 1 or 2 damage-dealing cantrips, a dagger, and a hairpin. But I don't build her for doing very much physical damage. That's the job of the incendiary specialist. The incendiary specialist is a strong, fit young man, a former soldier, a little rough around the edges. As his name suggests, he makes things go boom. He's also the muscle and the lockpick of the party. Mechanically, he's a fighter with high constitution and dexterity. He's got decent strength and wisdom as well. He's not particularly intelligent, but he's sure highly educated in one area, the alchemy of making things go boom. He has a bag of holding in his possession that is full of dynamite, bombs, and grenades. He also has 2 pistols and 2 sharp elbows. He has advantage on dex saves to avoid his own explosives, can make an unarmed strike as a bonus action on his turn, and has the traditional 5e stuff like Action Surge, Second Wind, and Sharpshooter. He's a great character to give a player that's not interested in learning a bunch of spells and special abilities on the fly. He's an uncomplicated man. Well, as uncomplicated as someone completely obsessed with explosives can be. Next, we have the retired detective. This one's pretty self-explanatory. This gentleman was once a high-ranking detective in the Queen's Honorable Metropolitan Police. He was a fancy peeler, or a bobby. He's retired due to age and poor health. Does he have cancer? Tuberculosis? He knows he's only got a few more years in him, and he's not about to let his decades of experience and connection go to waste. Not in this world of shenanigans and skullduggery. Mechanically, he's an inquisitive rogue, which is a subclass D&D specifically created to itch people's desire to play Sherlock Holmes. He's maxed out on intelligence and has high wisdom. His carefully honed instincts give him decent dexterity, but if he has to move fast, he's going to feel it tomorrow. His constitution and strength are a poor. He's got all the goodies an inquisitive rogue comes with, and he has both the keen mind and observant feats. Finally, that brings us to the spiritualist. The spiritualist is a young, ethereal beauty, daughter of a wealthy merchant. She was once madly in love with a young man who attempted to poison her for her fortune shortly after they were married. She survived and took her revenge, but her brush with death created an unnatural connection between her and the world of the spirits. With her family unsettled by this straddling of the line between life and death, she's gone out on her own and gained an almost cult-like following as a medium. Mechanically, I use a homebrew warlock subclass called the Spiritualist. I purchased it from the DM's Guild, and it was created by someone named Benjamin Huffman. Great job, Benjamin Huffman. I love it. It's about $5 and it's big fun. I recommend. I'm not going to get into all the details of it because I hope you'll support small creators like Mr. Huffman. For spells, she has traditional spooky spells like Chill Touch, Spare the Dying, Thaumaturgy, Mage Hand, Toll the Dead, Detect Evil and Good, Levitate, Augury, Speak with Dead, Clairvoyance, Phantasmal Killer, Death Ward, Shadow of Moil, Contact Other Plane, Hallow, that's a good one, comes in very handy, Summon Undead Spirit. She also has a penchant for poison. She's immune to it and has advantage on checks to detect it. She carries several vials of poison and a poisoned hairpin for going stabby stabby. And there we have our basic premise and cast of characters to build out from. I run one-shots with these characters that I make available to different groups 2 or 3 times a year. The first 4 that I do are heavily modified from official one-shots. I've taken kernels of ideas from these official published module one-shots and made them my own. These kernels came from Chapter 8, Ghosts of the Salt Marsh, particularly the section about the Ghost Lantern murders, the Canopic Being and Shim Sham's Bedtime Rhyme from Candlekeep Mysteries, and the Affair on the Concordant Express from Keys from the Golden Vault. If there's interest in the future, let me know. I'll do some videos about how I took those tales and made them, to my tastes anyway, more intriguing and streamlined. I actually really love talking about taking different content and making it your own. So I hope there's interest, and I'd love to do those videos. I've also created several Lady Blackwood one-shots that are completely original, homebrewed from scratch, and I'll definitely share some of those with you in the future. All but one. One of those I run at conventions sometimes, so it has to stay secret. What kind of rogue would I be if I didn't protect my secret identity? But if you like to play D&D at big conventions, maybe you've already played it before and you'll never know. Good thing we're all here because we love a mystery. My players are obsessed with these one-shots, truly, and their special cast of characters. I hope you find some kernels in this format that might work for you and your busiest friends. Thanks again for helping me choose which video to do tonight. It really was a big help and I deeply appreciate it. Like, subscribe, share, comment, etc., notifications, all that, so you don't miss any of the tomfoolery we get up to in this cave. As always, thank you for exploring the feminine urge to play Dungeons & Dragons with me, Owlbear Rogue.